Obviously a very momentous trade deadline day around the league. Really grateful we were able to finish our business sooner and ahead of the curve. Even more grateful that CJ and Tony were as excited about getting here as they were so that we can have them on the floor tonight. But it's interesting. We entered the trade deadline period kind of as a team that felt like we had a lot of momentum to begin with. As our injury situation had stabilized and the coaches were starting to have the ability to have some sort of consistency. I think you saw our team building a chemistry and a camaraderie with each other that we were really excited about. I think we were 21-20 in our previous 41 games. Had a run where if we had three of our starters together at any given point, we were really playing well. Obviously, Jackson Hayes being inserted in the starting lineup at the time he was, gave everybody a shot in the arm. And so at that point, we felt like we were a team that was in a much more leveraged position than when we were 1-12, obviously. And really a team that was, I think, excited about our direction. It made us really want to lean into that a little bit more. It made us much more confident that we were moving in the right direction and that we were ready to absorb a player of the caliber of CJ McCollum, by way of example. CJ, Larry, Tony, their wives, they're going to be the types of people that we care very deeply about. And I think you saw Tuesday what the people here are and what this family atmosphere really is trying to build. I've been in the NBA 28 years. I've never seen what happened Tuesday with Josh and Nikhil being in this building and the outpouring of love that this team has towards them and they had toward the team. It just speaks volumes to what Willie and his staff are building, to the human beings that are assembled here as a group. And CJ is only going to be all the more powerful for us because of that. This is a human being that's unparalleled in the NBA in many ways. Obviously, the president of the Players Association, a guy who you've already met, has incredible enthusiasm for being in New Orleans, for being with this team. And really it stems from, I think, Coach Green, what the group is building as a whole. And more importantly, and the thing that's the most exciting for me is word's out now on Brandon Ingram. And everybody's starting to hear it outside of the NBA. They're starting to hear it more anecdotally about how special Brandon really is. I've told all of you many times, you've heard me rant and rave about he's the hardest worker. He's our best human. He's this, he's that. This is what a star player looks like when their game is starting to explode from their fingertips and when all they care about is winning. And Brandon is that. He's a 24-year-old all-star who's now starting to learn what it looks like to be accretive to winning on his own and making people better. And when you put a player like that in position to play alongside someone like CJ McCollum, an all-star in his own right, who knows how to make people better, you start to really see the future of the franchise can be as bright as we had hoped it was. At the same time, that's on paper. So what we've earned so far is the right to continue to work and get better every day. Larry Nance Jr., some of you know already, will be having meniscus surgery tomorrow. We anticipate he won't join us for a period of time, probably a couple of weeks, I would think, before he gets here on campus. And we think he's probably 6 weeks from being on the court. Now, unfortunately, injuries like this, it's hard to know, but he's really, really excited to join us. We're super excited to have Larry and Haley joining us as well. Larry's father, somebody I have some history with, going back to my time as a kid in Phoenix. So there was a little bit more joy for me in bringing Larry. But the versatility he brings defensively was really important to us. Many of you know that we came into this not only consumed with the people, but we really wanted to be a bigger team. We wanted to play big and put bigger lineups on the court. And so the versatility of the pieces we have now, we feel really powerfully about the impact that could potentially have for us. And again, we're at the same time, you can say all of these things. It can look really cool on paper, and then the outcome is not what you would hope for. So we have a lot of work to do. I think our coaching staff knows that. I think this is going to take time. I think myself, Trajan, Swin, our front office group put us in a difficult position coming in. And I take total responsibility for that, just in terms of the amount of turnover we had, both on the coaching side and in the player front. It makes it really, really difficult when you have that much turnover. Guys are trying to learn each other. You have young men that have still trying to find their way in the NBA. You have coaches trying to learn their roster. And then you throw a bunch more injuries into it. So I think what's happened now is, as we've stabilized and everyone's starting to learn each other, we're starting to build. And so this is going to take some time. It's not going to be done overnight. We didn't do this to win overnight. We did this to continue to add to the group and be sustainable. And we're grateful to have the pieces we have to do that with on a human level. CJ and his wife, Elise, are going to be amazing with our group. So with that, I'll answer any questions you guys have.
Griff, on the court, what do you hope to see? What result do you think will have a change and impact having CJ and Tony out there?
Well, I think when I came here and met Mrs. Benson, I think her goal set was very clear. We wanted a team that was reflective of the spirit of the city. That's always been what we've been attempting to do. I think the fight and desire that Coach Green and his staff have sort of implemented in everyone is what we want to carry over to everybody that we put on the floor. I think CJ is very representative of that in his career. But I think in terms of the fit of the pieces, I think it's a player who understands the game at a really high level, player that can make shots, who can make plays for other people. Again, the versatility thing we talk about, he can play point guard, he can play two guard, he can shoot. And I think it's a situation where the actions that our coaches like to run, CJ is among the very best in the NBA at. And so from a fit standpoint, that should be really, really good for us.
Talked to you a lot these last few years just about trying to be competitive now while maintaining flexibility. So why do you feel like CJ was a guy, you wanted to target and at least wanted to bring in to try to be more competitive right now? Do you think it was the right fit?
Yeah, and again, I think we're in a position where we had a lot of reason to be optimistic about the group. And when you start to try to add to the group, you don't want to do it too soon. If you hit go too soon, you put yourself in a position that you can't recover from. And so we wanted to add the right pieces at the right time. Mrs. Benson and Dennis have been really patient with us in terms of giving us the bandwidth to do that. And I think when you have that ownership support, you can wait for exactly the right piece. And CJ was that on the court and off the court. And so I think when we look at CJ and we look at Larry and totality of the deal, it's fantastic. We're also getting a player in Tony Snell that's a big player who's got versatility defensively that can make shots. And all of that really lends itself to where we're trying to go. CJ's a proven playoff player. He's a player who's performed at an extremely high level in the clutch, who has a fearlessness about the way he approaches the game and an unselfishness in the way he approaches the game. And that's really Brandon's gift, is his unselfishness. And to have those guys feeding off of each other and driving the group forward is exciting to us.
What kind of update can you give on Zion right now?
So Zion continues to progress well, anecdotally at least. He feels very good. Trajan just was with him last weekend and was really encouraged by where he is. And again, this is all anecdotal. We hope that towards the end of next week or maybe the beginning of the following, we'll have some imaging done and have a better update. So it's hard for me to really give you anything other than what we see anecdotally is very good. I can tell you also, he reacted incredibly positively to the CJ McCollum news. I shared with Trajan actually that he's incredibly frustrated. He doesn't get to be here for the moment to be with him. So anecdotally, everything's very positive.
And on that note, what do you think about the fit with CJ, BI, and Zion?
Yeah, I mean, that's exciting to think about. I think when you throw in Jonas and Devontae, Herb Jones to that mix, you can start to see how the pieces will really settle together and fit together. There's a there's a potential for the actions being unguardable in some ways. And at the same time, we're going to have to really build that kind of trust and faith in one another that allows for you to be a good defensive team. But I think you can see that we've got, again, somebody who can put pressure on the rim, two guys that can really shoot, put pressure on the defense by handling the ball and making reads. As we continue to grow and develop, I think you're going to see that Jackson Hayes is going to be a piece that's really accretive to that as well. Larry Nance is going to be a piece that's really accretive to that because we have such big, versatile pieces. I think last year you saw us play. We played against Philadelphia when they were really playing well. And one of the reasons they were playing so well was that they could overwhelm you with size. And you couldn't overwhelm us with size. And I think if we can get into a situation where all of the pieces start to settle out and find their stasis, we can be very big and very competitive on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, how meaningful is it not only that you pull off the CJ deal, you identify this as a face of you guys want to get a mutual kind of desire to make that?
Yeah, it was really important. And I think, again, in speaking to CJ and his agent beforehand, I'd like to thank Joe Cronin, the GM in Portland, for his willingness to allow that conversation to take place ahead of time. It was important. The Trailblazers cared very deeply about CJ. They wanted him to be happy. So I think it was a good opportunity for us to visit. Coach Green got to visit with CJ as well. And I think what really stood out was we were so like-minded and spiritually like-minded, off the court like-minded. He believes in impacting the community he lives in at a really deep level and was excited about doing that here. But again, let's not kid ourselves. Brandon Ingram is a ginormous part of this. And when you have a player that is that good, that is that unselfish, who is that willing to share joy for the game of basketball, it becomes infectious. The best teams in this league have a leader that is infectious and spiritually unselfish, and Brandon's that.
I know you guys have talked about being able to go big with your lines prior to the season. How has the success, I think, maybe of the team Cleveland being able to do it kind of reinforced that idea that having big lineups can work? Obviously, you've seen some of the results, but what kind of helped reinforce that?
Yeah, it's a great question, and actually it speaks to sort of what I touched on with the Philadelphia game last year. I think that Cleveland game is a game we wish we had won there. We beat them here. They have incredible size and they have incredible versatility, and they couldn't overwhelm us with that. And when you look at the teams potentially that you hope to play in the future and games that mean the most, all of those are pretty big teams and they're very versatile teams. And the more skilled you can be with the most amount of size you can have, the most two-way players you can have on the court, the better chance you have. And I think, again, the coaching staff's willingness and trust in Jackson Hayes helps us a great deal in that way. But Larry Nance gives us a great deal of flexibility there as well. You know, we're unusual in the NBA in that we've got Jonas and Billy Hernan-Gomez, two real starting fives, guys who can score in the paint. And so because of that, we can always keep one of them on the floor. And now with Larry, Jackson, Brandon, Herb Jones, we can always keep big athletes on the floor that can make plays. So it sets up potentially very well, but none of that matters if we don't come together as a group very quickly. You know, these things get judged by the media. They get judged in social media in ways, and everybody's racing to give trade grades and all of those things. None of that makes any difference whatsoever if you don't win games. And this takes time. So we're excited about it, but we're more excited about it for what it means moving forward, not necessarily in the next few games.
Right now, you guys do have an open roster spot. What is your philosophy? I know it kind of changes if you're in Cleveland or where you're at. What's kind of the idea of what you would like that spot for the rest of the year?
Yeah, I think fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you look at it, we still have quite a few unknowns. And I think we're in a situation where heading into that buyout date, which March 1st, you have to be waived by in order to be playoff eligible. We're going to learn a lot about what this looks like. So it's probably premature for me to say I know unequivocally what we're going to need. Obviously, again, anytime you can get versatile two-way players, you want to do that. So we're going to be pretty keenly aware of who those people might be. But at the same time, we've got a lot of people here who can play, and the opportunity to play some of our young players, I think you saw the other night, is exciting to us as well.
David, what does it say from a culture building standpoint about this organization of being able to land a top 30 guy that's highly regarded as a top 30 guy in the NBA that wants to be here?
Well, first it says that Mrs. Benson is trying to do this the right way, and she's investing in the process at a really high level. This doesn't happen if she's not doing that. This is not a franchise that is doing anything other than that which is best for winning, and we're blessed that that's how she leads us. Most importantly, it's a franchise that believes in loving each other, and that comes from her as well, and it comes from her love of the city. So that's how it happens. In terms of what it says about us, it says that Willie Green and his staff are special good at what they do. And it says we've got a lot of the right human beings moving in the right direction. Trajan and Swin, the things that their teams do off the floor are remarkable to ensure that that's the case. So we're blessed. We have a lot of really good people here doing some really good things.
Yeah, you know, I'm going to zoom out a little bit on the season. We saw this group start 3-16 to 9. What is the biggest change you've seen to get this?
Yeah, I think, we've talked about this. Anytime we've had enough health that outside of Zion, we were healthy. If we could have B.I., Jonas, and either Jackson or Josh Hart starting, we were pretty good. I think we had a run where we were 18-13 with, a combination of those players. Well, that means 18-13 means there were a lot of games we didn't have that combination of players. And it happened the way it happened. It wasn't like it went, okay, 1 week and then you're good, you got them back. It was in and out and in and out. And I think from a coaching perspective, that's an enormous challenge. And it's a particularly large challenge with young players. And we knew coming in, we had built this to go around and leaning into the point in Zion concept. And because of that, we didn't have a whole lot of ancillary playmaking on the court, because when you're trying to be sustainable, you can't afford to be wrong. And so the pieces that we were looking for, CJ being among them, hadn't come available yet. And so now we're in a situation where at the right time, we're able to add the right piece. But I really think what happened when the season started the way it did was you had a brand new coaching staff learning each other, learning a brand new group of players that didn't know each other. And it took time. And unfortunately, it was a very rocky start because of all of that change. So as soon as things stabilized, I think you've seen, first of all, Willie Green's a hell of a basketball coach. And you get to see that when you're in a situation where you've got a roster that's competitive enough on a nightly basis to really see what he and his staff can do. So I think we've seen that. But we've also seen we've got a lot of really, really good young men that are about the right things. And Brandon's the leader of that. And everybody's sort of following his lead.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. How important has Willie Green's presence been as
Yeah. I mean, you can't overstate that, right? I mean, it's when Chris Paul is telling everybody that will listen how important Willie Green is, that helps you. So now we're going to have CJ McCollum telling people the same thing, we hope. Certainly he's excited about it now. And that's really helpful. But again, Will, none of that matters if we don't win, right? So, I mean, I think what's happened is we've given ourselves a chance to compete now. Willie gives us a chance to win every game, every night, if we've got enough talent on the court. And so we're excited about what that looks like. But spiritually, this happens because he and his staff are driving the right group of people at the right time. So we're just really grateful that the fit of all of that's been so good.
Hey, David, over here. I just wanted to get back to Zion briefly. If the imaging is good, I don't know if you can give us a sense of what the next step is. But overall, how are you balancing the hope that he could at some point come back to contribute as his team goes towards the playoffs against what is realistic given what is up?
So it's a great question. And I don't have enough information to even give you a sense of that. We're building this in such a way that we're going to be sustainable and the fit's going to be very good. whether he comes back now or in the future, when that happens, if it's 6 weeks from now, if it that doesn't matter. So we're in a situation where we're going to be able to build in a very positive way. But really speaking to his situation, because of where it is, I can't get into a lot of detail on it. So, because I just don't know enough to say. Thank you, guys.